Value podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition their business on their terms. Our mission was born from the lessons we've learned from over 100 business transactions, which fuels our desire to share our experiences and wisdom so you can succeed. Now here's your host, CEO of Mastery Partners, Tom Bronson.
Hi, this is Tom Bronson, and welcome to Maximize Business Value, a podcast for business owners who are passionate about building long-term sustainable value in their businesses. This week's episode marks the 1-year anniversary of the release of our first podcast. Man, a lot has happened in the last year. Thank you to all of our guests for sharing their expertise and insights for business owners to maximize business value. You probably already know that each week I ask the same question of our guests. What is the one most important thing you recommend business owners do to build long-term sustainable value in their businesses? To be perfectly honest, when we started asking that question, I just thought the guest would say something about the topic of that podcast, but many of them have surprised me with answers that I just didn't expect. But I can tell you that it's been pure gold. So today, we look at all of the answers to that question, and here is a snippet from every single interview. So let's take a look back at dozens of things you can do to maximize your business value. Let me warn you, you might want to take some notes on this episode while you listen to our year in review.
The one thing is create to grow, develop, and really nurture a really good leadership team. So if you're going to spend any level of money within your organization on your people, one of the key things where you're going to get where you're going to really get the most ROI from anywhere within your organization is to have good leaders within your organization who are really, they're walking the talk of your culture and your core values. Because if you have a toxic leader within your organization, they will, and I know, you'll smirk and I'll smirk because I know there's a few individuals which we could have stories about after this. But if you have a toxic leader who is doing everything that is countercultural and perhaps even undermining the CEO or is doing things that are very inappropriate within the organization, that leader is going to create so much turmoil. They're going to drive good people to leave the organization, and they're going to take whatever positives happen is going to be whatever positives the CEO tries to do, that person's probably going to do. So it's one step forward, 2 steps back. If you have a person who is a poor leader, who is solidly against the culture and is doing things, everything they can to drag the culture down.
Well, it's hard to give one answer to that because I think it differs depending upon what your business is. But I guess my answer would be is don't think short term, think long term. And what I mean by that is develop a vision. And frankly, it's get some to do that vision is I would not just be relying upon my own resources. If I was going to give one piece of advice to business owners, it would be get outside input. Whether that's joining Vistage or YPO or YEO or hiring a coach, get some other folks because it's very hard if you're just feeling like you're in a bunker to be able to develop that long-term vision yourself. And I would say get a team of outside people that you can trust who will give you some honest feedback. And what the successful business owners I've seen are ones who were not myopic and only looking out in their own bunker, but were getting input that really helped them grow their business and develop a longer-term vision.
At some point, look at getting their business valued, a proper business valuation, because we see so many owners who have no idea. They think they have an idea, but they do not have a real practical idea of the business, the value of their business. And so, they get to the point Dan's talking about, which is I want to sell tomorrow. They've had it for 25 years. They think because some friend down the street or whatever sold their business for $10 million, that's their retirement and their business. They live the same lifestyle. Their business must be worth $10 million too, although it's a completely different industry, a completely different success rate, performance level, and all that. And when you value their business for them, they're literally in shock and think you're crazy. And it's a situation that makes it very difficult because they can get 20 valuations done, and anybody who knows what they're doing is not going to give them what they wanted to hear. And it's really they're well served if they will just do that, even if they're not thinking about it for 5 years or 10 years, because they'll at least then know, well, this is how it works. This is how the valuation process works, and they can then know what to strive for with help from guys like you to get to that level.
Conversations about this stuff are always complimentary. So take 20 minutes to have a conversation to see if you're sitting on money.
Get your bench strength together. It's talent, talent, talent. You are not going to be able to do it alone. You are going to need to have the right players on the bus sitting in the right seats, right? It's that concept, because without that talent, you really cannot grow a business. It will not be sustainable. So get your talent squared away, to me, is the number one thing. The rest should start to take care of itself in terms of, obviously, if you're a decent CEO, you're business minded, you're looking at building a practice, you're doing all the other things, obviously, to sustain a business. But the talent will take care of a big part of this for you if you get to the right folks in place.
You have to get yourself, your personality out of your business in order to be able to sell. You really have to develop the leadership team to have the company really have inherent value for the purchaser of the business. As long as it is just you, as long as it is all command and control, as long as it is the magic of the moment and not a process and a series of repeatable processes, you'll never get the value for your business that you could have.
Finding your aha moment. There is an aha moment in your experience funnel, in the experience that your ideal customer goes through from attraction to referral is very important to find that aha moment. Where does it happen? Does it happen in the marketing process, the sales process? Does it happen when they've been with you for 3 months and have bought the product 3 times? Wherever that aha moment is generally tied to your value proposition, to your unique value proposition. And generally, if you have a must-have product, you do have an aha moment. If you don't have the aha moment, maybe you don't have a best-have product. And that is something to reconsider. And now is the time to be doing that. But looking at that experience funnel, finding that aha moment, and then developing dashboards and reporting around the metrics that are driving the business is just really important, because then marketing and the orchestration of other departments can get to work to improve those metrics in order to really just create massive growth for your company.
Protect the cash cow. Protect the business that you already built, right? And you can do that through a captive insurance company. And it's going to build even more wealth for you. So you want to protect things that maybe you're going to sell in 3 to 5 years. Make sure it's stabilized, that nothing crazy happens to it, so that you can get the most value out of your business as possible. And a captive insurance company is going to do exactly that.
We believe the number one thing companies should do is to clearly understand its priorities, because then you can reap the greatest impact for success. We see all the time where companies flitter around different priorities depending on the day of the week or time of the day, and they just don't have clarity on what they are, what they want to accomplish, where they want to get, and how they're going to get there. If they understand that, that's the foundation for moving forward.
Well, and I know each of us could tell probably 50 stories about being in an off-site strategy session and how fun it is and how engaging it is and how blue sky we all thought about all the great things for the company. But just what Charlene said, distill that down to what's critical and put a plan together around working through your critical processes, working through your critical priorities. And if a company knows this and they know where to put their energy and resources, you know, they'll definitely know what needs to be done first, what processes need to be documented first. Why do those need to be documented first? How's that implementing where we want to go as a company, how we want to grow, how we want to supplement that strategy that we all feel really good about. And, you know, Charlene said in the past, and I've you know, learned from the master that this is not the sexy stuff, right? But it's a very essential thing. And I think that's what makes it most critical.
Definitely communicate, talk to each other, sign to each other, write to each other, however you need to do it, because anything that you're holding back is going to be affecting the business and affecting you, whether you want to admit it or not. I learned something from my friend Willem Larson, who's an incredible facilitator, that you should have a space in any meeting, not any meeting, but in certain meetings for awkward conversations. So I'm on the board for Rewild Portland, and at every board meeting, we have a spot on the agenda for awkward conversations where we can bring up anything that's sort of been eating at us, which could be something like, I don't agree with that decision that you made, or it could be your natural deodorant is not working as well as you think it is, whatever it is. But creating a space for communication, I think, is going to be the thing that will affect how your communication works the most, which is going to affect how your business runs the most. And so that, I think, is the most important thing.
I would say they need to do some very strong soul searching on why is my product or service truly better? And I would do a little, like, I'm going to bring my mom out right now. Okay. So my mom's 78. Again, she was on the first team for North Texas to beat Harvard in national debate. She's an amazing debate teacher, amazing speech teacher. And what she taught me when I was a kid is, in debate, it doesn't matter what you believe. It matters what you can prove in the court of law. Right. So many times I ask business owners, I'll say, so great. So tell me, so you're charged $20,000 more than XYZ competitor. Tell me why. And then they just give me some yucky answer. Oh, we're better quality. The other day I was talking to someone and I said, do you realize that Walmart says they're quality? The lowest priced option, I promise you, says quality. Oh, we've got a 30-year family heritage. Okay, so do they. If you're $20,000 more, then you better be able to prove in a court of law what is the evidence to support it. You got to tell me why. And prove it, not just on your yucky belief system.
Get off of autopilot. So look at everything in your business. Look at where your money is coming from. Look at where your money is going. Look at your customers. Look at what you're doing. Look at systems. I mean, be relentless in constant improvement. Self-introspection about where it is you're going and what it is you're doing, and get off of autopilot.
I think that clients should be considering having retainer agreements, having an understanding with a lawyer that is the general counsel type that you've talked about, and let the lawyer understand your business. Encourage the lawyer on their own time to come out and spend a day with your business and half a day with each of the principals, which I've done, and COVID has given me that opportunity in the last couple of months. And by doing so, the lawyer understands you and your business, understands where you want to go, and understands where some of your minefields might be, so that if you've got a contract to be signed and you say, well, gee, Cleve, would you look at this and spend 15 minutes, spend some time looking at this? And I can say, sure, no problem. That goes on your retainer. And I'm going to keep track of the time I spend on your retainer matter, but you're not going to get a bill for it. That's part of your flat monthly fee. And so in doing so, you've kind of prepaid for it. And in knowing that you've prepaid for it, you're a whole lot more willing to give me a call and say, hey, what do you think about this before I sign it?
Understanding what you're selling and what it costs. And it might be, you might have 20 items, but look at each of those and understand, okay, what do I make off of this? Because what tends to happen, I see it a lot, companies have favorite customers and the customer says, well, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you make this new formula? And all of a sudden a company is producing something, selling a lot of it, not making any money off it. In some cases, they're losing money. So I think truly going in and understanding how you make your money and off of what you make your money on is a key in maximizing the value of your business.
Yeah, I think it ties in with the books that I've written is invest in your people, right? Hold out to hire the best. Don't just hire the least worst person who applied for the job in the month that you had it open, right? And then once you hire those folks, spend time with them, educate them, right? Make sure you have the long version of the story, not just here's some tasks to do, go do them. Really teach them about the business, really learn from them, really expose them to other trainings, other books, other learnings. And then as you continue to build them up, you can delegate to them. That's hard to beat. You know, going back to the whole sports analogy, if you've got the players, right, you're going to win a lot of games. So same thing applies to business. If you go out and get great people and you really invest in them and make them better every single day and give them the opportunity to do the job, that to me is how you're going to have a very valuable business with a very valuable team.
Build your organization or leadership team such that you can start elevating yourself to a spot where you can work. You're working on the business versus being mired in the business, right? And so defining the functions of your business, clearly defining the roles and responsibilities of each one of those functions, and either hire to empower, whatever that is, those individuals to operate those roles inside of those roles and responsibilities, so that the company, when you decide to walk away from it in whatever shape, form, or fashion, the company will thrive and not miss a beat.
It's worth the extra time to bring a diverse group together, and it's worth the extra time to figure out how do you unlock the key character strengths that each person brings to the table.
If you've invested in your employees, a business is only as good, obviously, as its employees and how they perform and how they feel connected. It's very difficult for owners today to create an intrinsic value in their employees, but that's why we call it ROII, return on individual investment. So what are we doing to maximize our values based on what we're putting into the lives of our employees and investing in them? That's why so many DE&I folks and learning officers and CHROs are out there beating the bushes for technologies and methodologies like what we have, so that they can bring it into the lives of these people. What happens to that is that their team becomes more cohesive, more congruent, more productive, and things like turnover starts to dissipate.
I think it's to get the most, maximize the value out of your marketing and your sales, is to make sure you get your messaging down, your position, your branding, kind of all synonymous, because I think that makes everything you do that much more effective. To me, if you take a minute to do that and then apply that to what you're doing, and hold yourself to it, because a good positioning is a benchmark. When somebody has let's face it, everybody's a marketing person, right? Everybody can do marketing. In big corporate America, we put people out to pasture in marketing, and everyone can do marketing. But when you come up with your brand and hold yourself to it, it's a benchmark to assess things that are put in front of you, right? So if someone comes up with an idea, the first thing you want to do is does it support that positioning or not? It's something to keep everybody heading in the same direction, and a way to say, great idea, but it doesn't fit sort of our overall messaging. It might be a sales training thing or something like that. It might be a piece of something else. So not only leveraging the value in your marketing, I think it just sort of helps the whole organization move in the same direction.
Well, spend as little money as possible on rent or ownership of a building that you're going to occupy. I mean, real estate is a necessary evil that is required to accomplish business goals and objectives in many cases. That's all being reconsidered right now. So all I'm saying is that, don't spend more money than you have. So how can you best minimize that expense while maximizing the value and the return on investment from that? And this is going to sound incredibly self-serving, but the best way is to hire a tenant representative to help you do that. Because, you know, if I'm going to go do my taxes, I'm not going to do it myself. I'm going to hire an expert to do that. If I'm going to, you know, think about selling my business at some point in the future, I'm going to hire somebody like Tom Bronson, because he knows things that I don't know. And so, you know, hire experts that know things that you don't know, or that you don't have the time or desire to deal with. So, you know, our job as a tenant rep is to save clients money, save them time, to give them expert advice. I mean, they typically sign a lease once every 5 years. The landlord is doing it thousands of times a year. So you're outgunned. Don't ever go into a negotiation where you're outgunned. Knowledge is power. Make sure you have knowledge on your side. And the best way to do that in real estate is to hire somebody who has that knowledge. And it's the same in a lot of other circumstances as well.
Empower your innovators to innovate, right? I mean, if you do that and you build that culture of innovation, you will get value for your innovation. And if you're not getting value for your innovation, it is really expensive to innovate if you're not getting value for it. I'm sure there's a lot of other things to build sustainable business, but, you know, I'm an IP lawyer, so it's sort of like, you know, to the hammer, every problem looks like a nail. But I'm going to tell you that from my perspective, getting value for your innovation, and that means building that culture of innovation. And Tom, I love that you've given that speech. I've given it too, from the IP lawyer's perspective, how to build that culture of innovation. It's critical. And if you do that, you'll find value.
Have your annual meeting, report on what the company's done this last year in ways that will be useful to you down the road, whether you're selling your business or dealing with what later becomes irate owners, and evaluate what your opportunities are. There's a lot of opportunities out there. And anytime there's this kind of chaos intersecting with stability, in the middle of all that is a lot of opportunity for creativity and a lot of opportunities for growth and redirected business profits. So good luck and seize the opportunity while it's there.
I think this year, more than any other year, it is important to make sure you have chosen the right advisors to surround yourself with. This is really important, whether it's a financial advisor who can help guide you and direct you, on your investments, personal or in the business, to make sure you're only taking the amount of risk that you're willing to take. On the accounting side, that you are working with a tax advisor who is up to date with their knowledge of the law, that they spend time being educated and learning and working with the same type of clients that you are. And then on the legal side, making sure that you have someone who is in your corner really advocating for your business in terms of how it's structured and making sure that all of these elements. And then, of course, Tom, other business professionals like yourself, making sure that you're thinking about long-term planning. Have you have a sales and marketing strategy? Do you have HR resources? I mean, so many advisors that you need to be surrounding yourself with. Make sure you got the right team.
Long-term sustainable value translates to building something that can grow, live, and thrive without you as the owner and the founder, right? And a business that can see where it's going at any point of time and can adapt when needed and justified by the business. So to me, that means investing in the best people, the best systems, the best processes, and documenting. That's another thing you've talked about, documenting those processes so it's not resonant in one person's tribal knowledge. It's an enterprise thing, and you're really building a true enterprise there. And I think the line often said is, success for business owner is being able to, walk away from the business and it's still surviving without them. And there's a lot to be said to that, because I think, the value that you're creating is then transferable. It just gives you options. Doesn't mean you have to walk away. It gives you options that someone else could come in. And then my freebie, because everyone says this, is that culture is really important, and it really is, even though it sounds kind of hack. I think about our clients who are kind of mid-sized businesses in very large competitive markets, and somehow they've carved out a niche, and somehow they're generating above average margins and making a very good living, and they've built something of real value, even though there's a huge guy down the road, right, that's competing for their space. And I think a lot of it comes down to culture, that if you've built, and it changes, what that culture is depends on the people, the industry, what part of the country you're in. But as long as it's every client we work with, it feels like there's a very clear and honest and consistent and a reinforced culture, whatever that is, that makes people want to work there, want to stay there, makes it easier to retain and recruit the best talent, and ends up coming through in the profit margins and in customer relationships, customers that really want to stay with you. And that's, again, is part of that transferable value, right? Those customer relationships.
Culture is really important. And I think you'll admit to Tom, that especially as people are looking at maybe selling or even buying a business, culture is really important. And if you're buying a business where the culture has been very negative for years and years and years, you literally have to have a fire sale on that thing to actually resurrect it. It's very difficult to resurrect a really negative culture. On the flip side, if you've got good staff, they're excited about their work. You've got managers that love what they do, and there's just this culture of gratitude and just respect and everything. It's unbelievable the value that brings to the business. So I'm real big on culture. And then as far as staffing goes, I think it's really important to make sure that people have what we call your KPIs, and that's making sure that your key
performance indicators. Yeah.
Your key performance indicators, so that everybody knows exactly what they need to do. One of the biggest things I see in businesses is that they have people floundering because they're not really crystal clear on exactly what they need to be doing, and then compensating them off meeting those key performance indicators. So you're actually building into your culture performance-based compensation, which is really exciting, because when people start to get excited about earning more income, then the base salary isn't as important as all the other income they can make from meeting their KPIs. And then the other thing was know your numbers. And this is one of the things that I've really had. Tom Bronson is probably the man when it comes to numbers. I've learned a lot from him, just partnering with him just not too long. But know your numbers. You got to know your sales numbers, your ROI, compensation. You need to know everything your business is doing, and you need to really make sure you're crystal clear on numbers, because math is basically what business is about. I mean, you got to be good at math. You got to be able to understand the basic numbers. And then I really want to encourage business owners to spend 80% of their time doing strategic thinking and growing their business. Too many business owners spend too much time in the business, and whereas I really want you to be thinking about what you can be doing to taking your business to a whole nother level, and which is really what the E-Myth is all about, right? That is really about being the master of working in a situation where you're helping your business to keep growing and expanding and improving, and that's really, as an owner, that should be one of your top priorities, to be spending a lot of time doing that.
I think it really goes back to taking control of their data. Of all the technology that you have in your business, the only thing that's really going to separate you is that data. If you're looking for merger, acquisition, or something of longer term value, a lot of your corporate value is locked up in what's in your data. Either they're buying your list of customers, they're buying your technical knowledge, they're buying all the intellectual property, your specialty designs, whatever it is. But realize, if that's all your value, you've got to protect it. You've got to mine it. You've got to understand it. You've got to be able to control it. You've got to be able to protect it. All of those kinds of things, it all hinges around your data. But, a lot of times when I talk to owners, they just don't know where the data is. Hey, I know I've got servers, but I don't know where my data is at. Or I think I've got servers, but your data could actually be stored in the cloud, on OneDrive or some other shared application. When we take on a new client, one of the things that we do is we try to find where is all your data located. And in some cases, you've got like a really super let's say like a sales manager, someone who's using some application that the owner didn't even know about, but only through our questioning and process do we find out that, hey, this data that's really critical to the organization, their CRM, isn't even on their servers. It's something the sales guy is doing because there were issues and he wanted something that he could control. And, he's not trying to do anything wrong, but just understanding where that data is and where it lives. That's so important to the owner, because as you go through your due diligence process and they try and track those things down, it may find out that it's not where you expect, or you don't have control, or maybe through the M&A process somebody leaves and you lose access to that data. All of those kinds of things are things that they'll get found out in the due diligence process, but you'd rather know that before you go through that process. So knowing where your data is, where it resides, how it's protected, how it's controlled, all of those kinds of things.
Always think of your business from a buyer's perspective. So if you were to vanish from this planet tomorrow, can the buyer run your business without you? And if you think he or she can't, that's not a good sign. If they need you to run the business, they're not going to pay you high enough for the business. If you can establish that they do not need you for the business and they can enjoy that consistent cash flow and let the business still run on autopilot, that business has value. So the closer to get this. Now, you may not be able to get to it 100%, right? Nothing runs 100% on autopilot, right? Or no cash flow is 100% consistent, right? But the closer to get to it, 70%, 80%, 90%, the higher the value.
Challenge your assumptions. Challenge where you think you're going to be in 3 to 5 years. Challenge what you think is valuable in your business right now. What does the future value look like? I think there are so many ways. If you are not continuing to build your business and create and innovate while you're trying to get out, you're not going to have something worth having when it's time to get out, because it'll be obsolete. The technologies that we're designing right now are even obsolete. We're looking at, for example, I'll go back to the Air Force. We're up to 6th generation fighter jets now. And the ones that were in development, like if we're not thinking about 7th gen already, they're going to be obsolete by the time we produce them. So it really is about how do we continue to make sure that we create so that whatever we have in 3, 5, 10 years from now has even more value.
I think that I would recommend going back to what Jim Rohn said. You're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So make them good people. Find an accountability tribe, peers that you trust, people that understand what you're going through, people that aren't afraid to hold your feet to the fire when things get rough, and people that are going to help recognize your blind spots and call you out when you're not making decisions with the best interest in mind. A accountability tribe of folks that will pick you up when maybe you've ran off the deep end and you need somebody to save you. I mean, that's what I would recommend to business owners to build their value in business.
Yeah, I'm going to say 2, and they're both related. Number 1 is understand the drivers of value in the business and what's going to make your business marketable at the end of the day. Whether you plan an exit or not, in the short term, you plan in the long term, you're at least giving yourselves options in the shorter term if you decide to get out of the business, or if you have a health event, or if you get a strategic offer, or if PE comes in and offers you a bunch of money. You're giving yourself options, and you're giving yourself the ability to maximize the take out of the business once you decide to exit. And then once you understand those value drivers, make sure that you make every decision within that business with a high degree of intentionality around those things that are accretive to that valuation. And I think a lot of business owners, whether it's launching a new product line, or whether it's sort of tolerating underperformance in certain areas, or not understanding where the profitability comes, and therefore not being intentional about the decisions that you make to drive value within the business. Every decision you make, you ought to go back to the mission of the business, and the mission of the business is to drive value.
So, in sales specifically, many people have heard the ABCs of sales is to always be closing. That's the ABCs of sales.
What I really believe the ABCs of sales is to always be caring. So if you own a business and you genuinely, I'm talking about genuinely, care about what you do, what you're producing, it's quality, it's the best, you care about your people and you care about your customers, I think that is the greatest value you can bring that will pay you dividends year in, year out for however long you want to do it.
Invest in coaching. And here's the reason why. According to HubSpot, so this is not just coming from Jimmy Curtin, according to HubSpot, if you invest in coaching, you'll see a 16.7% return on investment for that time. So can you imagine you can increase your revenue by 16.7% by investing in coaching? I mean, that's the one thing I would say to do.
This isn't sexy, but this really fits into the theme of what you do, right? The business, like the resale value, like how sellable is your business? It's systems, man. It's the unsexy part of the business that like every single job you have in your company should have like a wiki. You should be using some sort of thing with like, here's this person's job description. Here are step-by-step directions for all the tasks that this person performs on a weekly basis. With your sales team, it's the same thing. I see this like complete just winging it with the salespeople. They come in and like they wing, they don't have like talk tracks and like email templates. It's like really systemizing everything, making sure everything's got a framework, that it's got an approach to it, that it's documented. All of that stuff is extremely important. You should be able to lose a leader in one department and someone else should be able to come in and pick up right where they left off.
When it comes to being a business owner, when it comes to being a leader, I think vulnerability is one of the biggest things that you can do with your team. If you are, because listen, we're not perfect, right? We make mistakes. Most of us, well, everybody does. But if you think you don't make mistakes, you make mistakes. And I think there's something so big to be said about we don't have to always have a stiff upper lip with our people. We don't always have to look like we're perfect. We can turn to our teams and say, I've made a mistake. We can be vulnerable with them. And in that process, you'll build trust with them. And in that process, they will want to be on your team as well. And I've experienced this with my own team. There have been times where something has happened where I know I'm like, shoot, like, did I mess up? Did I make a mistake? And I will approach them with exactly that. Like, hey, we had this conversation yesterday. I noticed your reaction. And I want to make sure that I didn't do anything, anything wrong. Or did I say something that bothered you? Or sometimes they'll say something. I'll be like, shoot, am I not seeing like myself properly? Like, is there something that I'm doing that I can do better? And in that, you have the ability to really show them that you believe that you're not infallible, right? That you can make mistakes and that it really will garner trust and bond you and your team. And through that, yeah, they'll bend over backwards for you, but that's not the point of it, but they will. They'll help you, the organization, because they see your heart, they see you, and they want to be part of that and help the organization grow.
Know what's important to your company. Know what your crown jewels are, because that gives you the ability to focus on what's really important to me. Because people look at, oh, if I got to build all this resiliency stuff and planning stuff, I don't have time for that. It's like, and I can't afford it. It's like, great. I agree. Don't do that. Just figure out what the real key items are. What would really take you offline for 5 days and really create your business. So that's one. 2, create a plan and document it. You don't have to create a 50-page behemoth tome of the ages. Create something relatively small, something that, hey, here are the steps. Here are the phone numbers of the people to call. Here's what we want our employees to do. Here's what we want our clients to do. Here's our communication plan. You don't want to be doing that, when the lights are out. And then the third item is test the plan. Really test it and really understand really where your shortcomings are. And again, doesn't have to be long, doesn't have to be a quarterly thing, although quarterly is great, but ideally once a year. If you could test once a year, document it, it's great. And then let me just add one more thing, because I think this really adds to the value, is promotion of your program. Go to your clients, go to your partners and say, by the way, I want to let you know this is what we do to protect our business, because we value you as a partner and we value you as a client. and we're going to be there for you. And by the way, it's more than lip service. And here's why. And then ask them, now, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say one of the things that if you're contemplating an exit and you're wanting to sell it within the next 2 to 3 years, one of the things that I can definitely recommend, and I'm sure you tell all your people this too as they work with you, Tom, stop running every personal expense of your business. Because when it comes time to going to the lenders, SBA lenders, they understand add backs, but if you go in there and you're like, yeah, this is my personal cell phone bill. Here's $400 here, $200 there. The SBA bankers, they just kind of roll their eyes. They're like, look, what are the top 3 add back categories that we can actually verify? Your personal travel, meals out, that's about it. If you're running your car, if you're running every little aspect of your life for your business, okay, great. I get it. You're going to go from a taxable liability of $600,000-$700,000 a year, maybe down to 300. Okay. But what that's going to do for you on the exit multiple is you might lose a whole multiple in earnings on the exit. So, for the 2-3 years before selling your business, keep really clean books. Obviously it's okay to have an add back here or there, but make sure you can just break it down into 1 or 2 clean categories.
Probably to document your processes, understand what where your constraints are and identify those and strategies to start to move towards those, just as we are doing here in cash flow. But to really document them, begin to adjust in there, things you may have done last year that just don't make sense to do now.
Fantastic question. Tom, I would say invest early on in that accounting function, right? I see a lot of times firms or organizations tend to view the accounting function as something that they'll work on later on. Let me get my business up and running, and then I'll figure that out later. And then they get busy, they get more revenue coming in, and they're, busier than a one-arm paper hanger, right? And they don't have the time and energy to invest in that accounting function. And then they come to a transaction and they wish that they would have started very early on with that. So I would say finding that right controller, that accounting manager, then move into a controller, and then ultimately a CFO, a true CFO position, I think is critical to making sure that you can maximize that value long-term in the business.
First, how do you maximize business value as an owner who's selling your business? Well, it's not just the dollar figure of the purchase price. It's also, what are the terms of payout? Are you going to be able to stick around like we talked about earlier and transition working your working years on your own terms and on your own timeline? And what are the tax implications? Is it just a single payday, or do I have the opportunity as a business owner to maximize the value of this business that I've created on a post-tax basis? ESOPs provide a great opportunity there. From the employee side, and you as a business owner should be considering that. How do you maximize the value to your employees? In addition to the tremendous benefit that the dollar value that's created and built in the ESOP accounts for your employees over time, your employees get to keep their jobs. That's a significant value. I mean, are you creating and adding value with your business? These people, your employees who've been with you for a long time, who helped you build this successful business, become successful on your own, you get to leave something to them, a business behind that survives your tenure with the company that you built for the benefit of, and not at the expense of, the employees who helped you get there.
So there you have it. Literally dozens of things you can do to build long-term value in your business. Thank you so much for tuning into the Maximize Business Value podcast, where we give practical advice to business leaders who are passionate about building long-term sustainable value in their businesses. We are so grateful to all of our guests, our listeners, and our colleagues for this continued support and interest in our passion to help business owners maximize business value. I'm looking forward to year 2. Be sure to tune in each week and follow us wherever you found this podcast. So until next time, I'm Tom Bronson, reminding you to maximize your business value.
Thank you for tuning into the Maximize Business Value podcast with Tom Bronson. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition on their terms. Learn more on how to build long-term sustainable business value and get free value-building tools by visiting our website, www.masterypartners.com. That's master with a Y, masterypartners.com. Check it out.
That was perfect. I wouldn't make any changes on that.